I don't know why I'm doing this, but there's just something within me that just, I can't not do it. What is up, everyone, and welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, welcome to the channel, and today I'm doing it. I am going to rank ships. I have been wanting to do this for a while, and I have been scared because the shipping side of the fandoms are always the most toxic and always the most weird, and that rings true with the Demon Slayer fandom by a lot, but I can't not rank my favorite ships, because while the story doesn't have a ton of romance in it, and I don't really think that matters, there still are ships that I care a lot about. So we're gonna do it. But before we get started, I have two disclaimers. So number one is this video is going to have a lot of manga spoilers in it until the end of the story. There is literally not one way I can exclude any manga spoilers, because a lot of these couples are literally manga spoilers. And also, like, the main reason why I like my favorite, like my absolute favorite ship, is because of a plot point that happens very late in the story that is very, very important. So I'm not only saying that there are manga spoilers in this video, I'm saying that there's going to be major manga spoilers in this video. So if you are an anime only and you don't want to get spoiled, put a pin in this video and check it out after the series is done. All right, there's your warning. My second disclaimer is I am normally a canon shipper, okay? I don't tend to really care about non-canon ships. I like to ship the characters that have canon chemistry during the story. So most of this list, there's going to be 6 on this list. They're all canon except for one, and the one that isn't is number 6. So just keep that in mind. That's just my preference. I don't care if people prefer non-canon ships. I don't care if people prefer canon ships. I only care about keeping things respectful. So if you don't like the fact that I prefer canon ships, that's okay. Just keep it respectful in the comments, okay? You can comment your list of your favorite ships. Just be respectful about it. That's literally all I care about, okay? Because for some reason, when it comes to shipping, I've had people just straight up unfollow me because I like a certain ship, and I'm like, okay, okay, bye. Like, I don't want that kind of energy around here. So anyway, as you can tell, this means a lot to me, because for some reason, when it comes to talking about ships on my social media, this is the thing that gets the people most upset for some reason. I don't know. I don't really care, but I'm just putting that disclaimer out there right now. That's that. Okay. So, with that being said, we're going to talk about my top 6. I will also add that except for number 1 and number 2, kind of like my favorite characters in the show, the rest change all the time. It depends on, like, the time of month. Or how long it's been since I've read the manga, something like that. And also, I will add, just like my favorite characters, there's not really any criteria to this. It is completely based off of my feelings, okay? It is completely based off of how much I think about each one of these ships throughout my day. And there's one that reigns supreme, okay? The rest I don't think about on a day-to-day basis, because again, it's Demon Slayer, and there's a lot more to that story than romance. Romance is like the least of their worries during the story. So anyway, this is a really long intro. Let's get to ranking. Oh, but before we do, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's get into it. So coming in at number 6, and this one has broken my top 3 before, but I pushed it down to 6 because I realized that there are others that I just care a little bit more about. This is my lone non-canon ship, and it is Sanemi and Giyuu. I just like the idea that since they are the 2 Hashira that survived the final battle, they found their way to each other. And before, people are like, oh, but they hate each other. They clearly don't at the end. And even then, like, it was all a misunderstanding. Sanemi didn't like Giyuu because he thought Giyuu thought that he was better than everyone. And once he saw through that, he grew to be fine with him and realized they had a lot of similarities. Also, like, in those little, like, panels at the very, very end, like the last few pages where you just see, like, kind of a conglomeration of a bunch of different happy moments, they're, like, eating together. They're smiling at each other. Like, I could see romance blooming between the two of them, especially if they, like, both died at 25. Like, they had 3 years to go, you know? Like, why not just end up together and be like, well, this is it. Anyway, I like them. I'm not gonna write it down for them. If someone tells me they don't like Giyuu, I don't care. What I do care is when someone's like, I don't like Giyuu, and because you like Giyuu, I'm gonna send you, like, hate mail. Which is so silly to me. But anyway, they're my number 6. I love them. Do I love them as much as, like, a lot of the people I know? Because a lot of people I know absolutely adore them? No. But I do like them. I'm cool with them. All right. Coming in at number 5 is Yoriichi and Uta, aka Yoriichi and his wife. So I'm going to be real with y'all. My issue with a lot of romance, especially within Demon Slayer, is most of them are totally doomed, like completely doomed. And Yoriichi and Uta is definitely one of those. But I do really, really love them. Again, there's not much criteria behind me loving them. I just think that it's really sweet. Yoriichi was such a complicated person. And I think he's one of the most well-written characters in the story. I think that part of the reason why I love him is that there is that romance in his story. He fell in love with a girl, and they were so happy. And for him to lose all of that before, and how it was, like, kind of intertwined with the Kamado story later on, I really, really, like, it breaks my freaking heart. Just like my number 3 ship, which we'll talk about in a little while. I adore them. Like, and this is like real canon romance, right? Like, they genuinely fell in love. They got married. We saw it kind of happen. The only reason it's as low as it is because I feel like because it's more of a backstory type romance, and I didn't really get time to sit with it throughout the entire story. And also it's doomed and made me cry a lot because they didn't get to grow old together. It is almost painful to think about it. So that is why it is number 5, but I love them and I adore them, and they deserved everything in this world and didn't get any of it, and I hate it. Coming in at number 4 is Zenitsu or Nezuzen. I've heard both versions, but it's Nezuko and Zenitsu. This is strangely hotly debated on the internet, and I understand some reasons why, because Zenitsu can seem very, like, possessive of her when he first meets her. But my least favorite thing that I see on the internet, which is just straight up mischaracterizing so many people, is the idea that Tanjiro, like, hates Zenitsu because he has a crush on his sister. I have been to conventions cosplaying Tanjiro, and I've had, like, people approach me in, like, Zenitsu cosplays and Nezuko cosplays, and they're like, can we do a skit where you just have to, like, act really annoyed and mad at Zenitsu? And I'm like, guys, Tanjiro is Zenitsu's biggest shipper, and I will take that to my grave. That boy would be so happy that his little sister that he's dedicated his life to falls in love with his best friend that he, like, would trust with his life. Anyway, okay, so first of all, let's talk about Zenitsu and Nezuko in general. So obviously their stories are very different throughout the story because Nezuko, she has a lot of agency in the story, and I think that's another, like, mischaracterization of her. And Tanjiro is that Tanjiro gives her so much agency and he fights for her agency, but she also, throughout the story, just doesn't have a lot of wherewithal. I don't know how long the, like, hypnosis really was on her. I like to think it wore off, like, at the end of season 1, and the rest of, like, all of her actions throughout the story were completely her own will, and that's it. And then, of course, Zenitsu starts out very possessive and obsessed with her, but we have to remember that Zenitsu is, like, a 16-year-old kid, and while, yes, it feels over the top to us because it's over the top in anime over the top, so it's always more dramatic than just regular life. I think that it is okay that a 16-year-old boy with a crush can be a little bit obnoxious about it, okay? I don't think Zenitsu ever crossed a line. Truly. I think Zenitsu is obnoxious about it at times and annoying about it at times, and occasionally makes comments, not even really about Zenitsu, just about girls in general, that are very not in good faith. But Zenitsu also grows throughout the story. There is canon material where it talks about Nezuko, like, as she gains her memories back and she becomes human again, like, he's always there. Like, yes, Tanjiro is always there, but, like, she remembers the boy who protected her box. She remembers the boy who just, like, fought for her and protected her, and like, Zenitsu is a part of her memories, and very strongly a part of her memories. Personally, I think it took them a little bit longer to, like, start dating and truly fall in love as some other couples, but I do think that their love for each other is really pure and beautiful, and Zenitsu is gonna treat her right. Like, that's the thing too, is, like, Zenitsu is gonna treat her like the princess that she is, right? Again, I think I love the idea of Tanjiro and Zenitsu actually being, like, brothers because they are brother-in-laws. Like, it's just really sweet. I love it, and I think it's a great ship. Truly. It's very cute. I love them. There's just some that I like a little bit better because Zenitsu does bother me at times. But I think that he grew out of that, he grew up, and they fell in love, and that's really sweet. All right. Coming in at number 3 is Akaza and his wife, aka Koyuki, and his human name was Hakuji, I believe. This one is another just absolute doomed, heartbreaking romance. I put it higher than Yoriichi and Uta because Akaza's story essentially is completely about her. I really like how all of his characteristics are like revolving around his love for her and how like she changed him. He was a thief, and he was just trying to be able to care for his dad, but like couldn't, and so he was resorting to thievery, and that ended up not great. And then he found her because of his master, and this is another one. I don't know if I have a ton of thoughts. I just have a lot of feelings. Like my heart just like when I think about him, but I think that this is by far the best written romance in the story, even though it is a backstory. I think that when Gotoge was writing specifically this backstory, like their pen was on fire. Like they were just on top of things, and we're so close to this getting animated because this is going to be animated probably in like, it might be the second movie, honestly, but my goodness, they're just really special. And I think that their romance really proved why, like, Akaza was never a bad guy. Like, Akaza did not even choose to get turned into a demon. He had just given up because okay. I love them, obviously. Everyone is, and I love them. They just come in at number 3 again because I think the only reason why they come in at number 3 and not higher is simply because I spent most of the story hating Akaza for what he did, and I didn't get to spend the story like with him and Koyuki. It was just the backstory, so I got a very brief snapshot of it, but man, did that hurt my heart when I read it, and when I read it again, and when I watch it, I will okay. My top 2 are the 2 that I care about the most by like a lot, and there's still a lot of space between 2 and 1, I will add, but I do think that these are the 2 romances that are important to the story in general and important to each character. Like they actually are intertwined with the character well. I think my number 2 is actually a little bit more intertwined with the characters than my number 1. However, my number 1 I just love. I have like, my heart is just like, I love them. So coming in at number 2 is Obamitsu, Obanai, and Mitsuri. So this is a romance that has a very important role in both their character arcs, obviously. Like, Mitsuri joins the Demon Slayer Corps in order to find a husband, and Obanai, like, doesn't talk to women. He can't do anything with women, like, because of his backstory where his entire family was women, and they all abused him. So, like, he has a very hard time around women because he has so much trauma involved with women. But Mitsuri, like, he instantly just is comfortable around her, and they're in love. Like, they're 100% in love. Like, this is canon. Mitsuri in her dying moments asks if she can be his wife when they're reborn. But, like, their love for each other kept them going until the end and made them the slayers that they were, in my opinion. And I love that Ufotable added a lot of really sweet moments, like silly moments between them in Hashira training. I feel like they really honed in on the fact that Obanai was like extremely jealous of Tanjiro for spending time with her, even though Tanjiro was like, that's my big sister. Like, okay, maybe he had like a little crush on her at times because, you know, the moment in Swords of the Village. But I really, really like them. Again, tragic, but I can do better with both of them dying than when one dies and the other lives on. Like, that trope, the trope of someone dying while the other lives on when they are in love, is like my least favorite thing in a way, but also my favorite thing in a way because I love to watch and read things that make me cry. Them dying together and then being reincarnated and being married in their reincarnated lives is just such a great way to finish out their story because, like, they were doomed. Obanai was probably never going to be ready to make that step and actually be married to her because of his background and why he thinks like he fully intended to die in that battle against Muzan. And while Mitsuri, I wish she hadn't have died, but also at the same time, I think them dying together just solidifies that romance, that arc for the two of them. Like, it ended the same way. It was beautifully sad. It was very bittersweet. It was hard to see them go, and it was hard to see them pass away, but like at the same time, together was like beautiful in a way. Okay. So, again, I say my number one is super, super high up. I'm going to say that one of the reasons why it's super high up is because it is involving my favorite character that I care a lot about. So I'm obviously going to care a lot about a ship that has to do with my favorite character, and it is Tankana, aka Tanjiro, and Kanao. Now, a lot of people might say, like, well, why? Like, why do you like this one so much when there's really not that much to take from the original work? Because there just weren't many moments between the two of them. I will say I wish they had more moments. One of my biggest issues with like Hashira training in general is the lack of Kanao in that arc, when we could have really thrown her in and really developed her a little bit before we got that huge development for her in the Infinity Castle, but I digress. I think there's a lot of moments that are very subtle between the two of them that I take as foreshadowing that they were going to end up together, starting all the way back in season 1. And this is something that I missed the first few times, but I think this was very intentional. And I'm getting deep in the lore here. I'm probably going to spend most time talking about them because I love them the most. But in season 1, when we get Kanao's backstory, right when it ends with Kanai telling her, like, someday you'll meet a boy and your heart will start to open up to him. And right in that moment, it goes to showing the squad, like Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inosuke, and we can see all three of them, but it focuses in on Tanjiro. He's the one who's saying something at that moment in time. She clearly, like, puts her focus onto him. And then literally in the next episode is when she begins to open up her heart because of Tanjiro, like, doing the whole coin flip thing with her. And I think that is just, like, such a nuanced way to show that, like, they were going to be endgame. And I think that's really good because I don't think they needed to be over the top with the romance between the two of them. It didn't need to be like a Katara and Aang situation where he clearly had, like, a crush on her the entire time and then she grew to love him over time. They were both child soldiers. Tanjiro was very, very, very focused on his mission to turning his sister back into a human and defeating Muzan. That boy didn't really have time to think about romance. The moments between them are very nuanced and very small, but they are there, you know. Then, like, Kanao is really only learning to speak and is really clearly only comfortable talking around certain people, like Tanjiro and then, like, Shinobu, right? I think there was just, like, a lot of beauty in that. And then when we get to the final arc, when Tanjiro gets turned into a demon, right? And this is a highly contested, was this good? Was this not great for the story? I say this is one of my favorite moments in the story. I love that they went that direction. Kanao would not have been able to do what she did if it weren't for his presence in her life, right? If Kanao was the same person that she was in season 1 at the end of the story, she would not have been able to make that decision to run at him unarmed to turn him back into a human. But she was able to do that because of his influence in her life. Therefore, I see it as, like, they saved each other, right? He saved her from, like, the trauma of her history. And in doing so, she was able to save him because she is the one who saved him, right? Like, Nezuko was trying to get through to him, and I think she did a little bit, but not enough. Kanao is the one who was able to give him the medicine to just try to bring him back to them. And I think that's really beautiful. I could do a whole video dedicated to just Tanjiro and Kanao, and I probably will at some point. I know I say that a lot during these ranking videos. I will. I just have to script them, and that takes a lot of time. But truly, I think that their stories intertwine so well, and it's so small and nuanced, but it's there. And you don't really have to look that deep to find it. It is there. You just have to pay attention. And you can see that, like, they were definitely growing together. And then, of course, at the very end, when they, like, have their little moment with the victory tree, you, like, there's blushing. Tanjiro's like, oh my gosh, she's so cute. Like, he finally doesn't have to worry about, like, being a child soldier, and he instantly is like, oh my god, I've got a crush on this girl, and it's adorable. So I love them very, very much. Now, is this also a case of one dies while the other lives on? Possibly. We're not going to talk about the curse, okay? Anyway, they're my favorite. I love them so much. They're just very sweet. I love that they canonically ended up getting married and having children. I think that's just, like, that's so right for them. I don't see Tanjiro it's funny because I can see Tanjiro with like literally anyone. Like he's just everyone has a crush on him, right? Like Genyu has a crush on him, Aoi has a crush on him, right? That's a headcanon, by the way. That's not actually fact. I feel like of everyone who survives after the end, like Tanjiro and Kanao just make the most sense. Like it was so obvious to me that like they were working towards that. It was just very small bits, very nuanced, because it wasn't a huge part of the story. While it kind of was. I'm kind of okay, if that makes any sense. But I love them. They are my favorite ship. They are far and away really the only ship that I'm actively like searching fan fiction for, which there isn't that much, unfortunately. I've written a lot of fan fiction about them. I'm gonna literally write a whole book about them probably at some point. And I love them. I love them. I love all of these ships, truly, but they are just my favorites, and I need more of them in my life. But that is it. That's my top 6 ships for Demon Slayer. Again, I just ask, if you disagree, that is totally okay. Just keep it totally respectful in the comments, and we can have a conversation. I don't care the ships that you like. I genuinely don't. All I care about is that you don't attack me for liking a different ship than you. I will never attack you, so I ask that you never attack me, and we will all have a great time. But thank you so much for watching today's video. If you liked the video, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment, again, what your favorite ships are. And you can also follow me on social media. I'm trying to get to 5,000 followers on Instagram before the end of the year. So if you can help me out and follow me there, I'd greatly appreciate it. I'm at Hannah Millet. That is HANAMILET on Instagram. And then I'm Looking Nerdy on X and TikTok. But with that, thanks for watching. Matane!